One, two, three, four.
If you have good material, if you're true to your passion and you stick it through, people will gravitate to it because there's so much fake stuff out there that, and it's what Steve Martin says, it's like people ask me how I get a manager, how I get headshots, how can I get the booking? No one asks me how to get good. How do I get better? How do I get better at what I do? Sometimes you just don't get what you want. You know, and you have to have grace in that process, you know. And it's I think I'm so used to not getting what I want, because I think for you as an actor, you know this as well. How many times do we audition and we just don't get it, what we want, what we're going after, for X or Y reason that has nothing to do with our actual talent, you know? So it's like, at least with songwriting and music, it's like it does keep the power on your end if you're a creator, that it's like, I created this, no one else created this, no one else helped to produce this. I know what this stands for. It's not a script someone else wrote that you're auditioning for, that other people are deciding if you get or not. It's like it's the biggest reward. It's like the biggest sacrifice, but it's also for me the biggest reward. It's, to me, what I'm doing across all of the disciplines that I engage in is truth hunting. It's like being a bloodhound for the truth, for authentic expression, before this authentic expression became cliche to say, became cliche to talk about. When I'm directing or acting coaching, I'm working with actors and just working to take out the noise and take out the stuck energy. Where is the energy stuck? Which is also a very personal thing. Actors being in their body, or performers being in their body, we have habits that are sometimes grounded in very psychological basis. So it's like sometimes I get deep into psychology with people, and I become their therapist a little bit. And it's that nurturing, what you're talking about, that nurturing thing about how you draw someone out and assess where they're stuck physically, if it's in a performance aspect, to get them to go physically where they need to go to perform to do the character, or to become vulnerable. I feel I'm a bloodhound for the truth. I decided to come back to Panama, one, to be closer to my family, because I didn't want to come back in 20 to 30 years and be a complete stranger. You know, it's like I had certain contacts that I kept going while I was in the US. So like when I was in the US, I would come back to Panama and work on shows. I would be a fight director, mostly a fight director for shows. And here in this scene, it was like, oh my God, what is fight direction? Like, actors were hitting each other. So it's like, you know, so for me, it was like, okay, I want to come back home and I want to help the cultural scene here grow, because we're still a very young country. I think we all have a self-saboteur or a self-critic, right? And my self-saboteur comes out with writing. It's really hard. I just shut down. I go to write and I just shut down. Like, my partner, he writes 80 to 85% of our material, and he's like, please write more. And I'm like, I get here, and it's hard for me to put it out there. But then I started to realize as well that there have been a number of experiences that kind of truncated my confidence from a young age, and theater had partially to do with that. And because I remember being in DC and feeling small. There's a way that sometimes actors can feel like the bottom rung of the ladder, because we're told what to do, where to go, how to audition, when to be, how to stand, what to wear. And we forget that we have a voice that can be just as strong, you know? And it's like, in the last few years, I've been starting to exercise that voice and to understand, especially in my journey being part of the LGBTQ community, which is, once I externally became what I internally feel. So I cut my hair, and then I started getting tatted up, and I stopped wearing dresses and heels. The world starts to view you differently. Thus grew my understanding of where my privilege is, and then where my non-privilege is. Where I have been complacent and not using my voice to speak up, where I have been received so much privilege and so much access, where I haven't. So, for example, for me, it was when we were recording our first and second albums, especially our second album, in the room, I was the only woman. you know, I would feel uncomfortable in this place where most of the material was my partner's, but he always, you know, he always welcomed my input, and he never makes me feel like I shouldn't be giving input. And he wants my voice in the room. But there's certain things about being in a room that's full of men that even if men who are woke, there are certain things that are so subliminal that they don't even realize that they do. So for me, for example, like opening up my voice and saying, no, this percussive line right here, it's off in second 039. This tambourine is off, over here. And they're like, we don't hear it. And I was like, it's there. Here, my voice is out of pitch. Here, his voice is out of pitch. No, it's fine. And I'm like, no, you will change it. You will fucking change it, because in the end, we're the ones who live with this fucking record. And it's the difference between putting out something that's excellent and something that's okay. And just having the conviction to use my voice and not apologize for it, because it's every time I go to open my and use my voice, it's like this fear, you know, of like, I don't know what fear of conflict. We think that conflict is a bad thing, and it's not. Having to stand your ground when there are men around you who don't agree with you, that's been a muscle that I've been learning how to exercise. And then especially in the last literally 3 to 4 months during COVID time, and during this now, you know, resurgence of Black Lives Matter, I'm like, what am I doing? More vocally, more vocal, more speaking up, more. And it's like, because there's, especially for Latin women, no, be nice, be kind, be sweet, sweet my ass. I can be sweet, but still be assertive, you know? So it's learning as a woman to stand up for my voice in songwriting, in acting, and acting coaching when there are unsafe things in the room. The strongest journey has been a journey in standing up for my voice and for the voice of other people around me, and for the voice in the room to create a safe space to work where if I wasn't there, it wouldn't be created. You know, so it's like, that's kind of how I feel that I've been beneficial to here, to Panama, to the places where I go to work. And it's like, if I can just plant a seed in the minds of the boys and girls that I work with, you know, for certain schools, I'm working with kids that are 11, 12, to be a supportive person for them, and to be a visible person who has found, you know, I feel so happy and lucky. I have my girlfriend, I have my dogs, like, wow, you know, I honestly wasn't sure that this was possible for me. So it's like that, just being visible is a mission for me. I need to write more because my voice is important, because of the things that I can share from my perspective, because other people need to hear this minority perspective, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So
it's like, there's enough of white men writing love songs, and it's like, my partner's a white man. He writes love songs, and they're not from a personal nature. He does exercises in writing. He writes 20 songs, and, you know, we put them through their, you know, to see which ones we're going to work on, which not. But he cannot take it personally what his lyrics say, because, and most white men don't understand this, writing from your imagination is a privilege. When I write about my alcoholic father. I write about being a woman walking down the street getting wolf whistled. I write about being gay and loving my partner. So I write from these deeply personal things that I feel need to be understood and kind of masticated in the world. And so that's a different perspective. And I think that's a perspective that needs to be heard. It's my hope that the people that I work with get a little bit closer to their authentic selves, that they have positive experiences, that they take the tools, especially if it's kids. Most of them won't grow up to be actors or artists, but that these tools bring you into better alignment with yourself. Standing up straight and being aligned and grounding your feet and opening your mouth and breathing allows you to be more in touch with yourself. And you can take that into a job interview for anything, for whatever you wind up doing. So it's my hope that that my work in the world allows people to be a little bit more of their authentic self, if that makes any sense. And then little by little, the world becomes a more authentic place.